we've got pretty much all the router motors here, the routers that come with where the motor can lift out of the base. The only one I don't have is the big Milwaukee 3-horse motor. I had one here, but I think John Olson from our staff swiped it, and he's hiding it somewhere around the building. I don't know. He likes it. So we do have several of these. There's 2 3-horse motors out there, the Milwaukee and then this Porter Cable 7518. They both have the 3 to 3.5 horsepower rating, whatever you want to believe. It's, they're kind of somewhere in that neighborhood. That's really nice if you can get it. That's a little pricey. They're both about $300, $350 to buy one of these alone. But that's nice if you're doing panels, big panel raising bits and stuff, you can take a bigger bite off with those because they've got the muscle to do it. But that said, you don't have to have one of these routers to do that. Any of these routers here will work fine in a table, and they will spin even a panel raising bit. You just have to take smaller increment cuts with them. You try to take a big, a 1/4 inch cut at a time with one of those bits, and it's going to make your router stall, and you don't want to do that. So you can take it easy with them, but they all have the ability to do that. So you make sure you get one that's got, and all these do have a 1/2 inch collet, so you want 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch, but for the bigger bits, you've got to have 1/2 inch shank bits. So stick with that. But most of these will fit in a lift and everything. They'll also fit by themselves. You can just mount them onto any kind of a top, or a plate, either one. You generally have to take the sub base off. That's the plastic base. Take that off and then drill the holes and mount it. You might have to get longer screws because a lot of times these screws aren't made to go through something else and get on there. So you might have to go to the hardware store and make sure you get those screws lined up. And some of these are metric, so you want to get that, like the Bosch screws I know. I think the Makitas are metric screws when you go looking for that. So, but that helps to get those mounted onto a plate or onto a table. But you do have to take this off to do it. It just gives you then, if you leave it on there, that just leaves, you're just basically giving up that much room of bit travel. So take that off and get rid of it. But you can take them out of their bases. You can do that. You can put them on. Some of these actually have lifts built into their bases. The Bosch, the Porter Cable, and the Milwaukee, I believe, are the ones who do that. And Triton's a plunge router, and I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, it's a little bit different animal, but it does have some of that. I want to show you this here real quick on the fixed base. So here I've got a Milwaukee router mounted just on a Porter Cable base. Got it in its own base, and we drilled a hole through here to put this wrench that comes with it so that I can put that through there. I have to release the lock, the base lock, and then I can raise and lower the bit. And let's see if I can do this here, because I've got to drop the cord through. So then you put your wrench through there, and sometimes you have to kind of fumble around until you feel it engage, and then you can just, by twisting that around, you can raise that up. Some of these, you can't quite get the bit or the collet all the way above the table so that you can't maybe change bits from above. Some of them you can. It's a little bit tricky, but it does work well enough. It's a pretty decent system for setting bit height, so it's all right. You can do. So you can take your router out, put the bit in, and then use this to kind of fine tune that height. Yes, sir, in the back. Yes. Yep. Yes. And that's what I say. It will. Yeah. And I'll elaborate on that. But you're right. Triton does have one. But with a fixed base, there's a few that have that. The Milwaukee and the Bosch combo kits come with this wrench. The Porter Cable does not. You have to buy their wrench separate, but you can do it. And it does work all right. You still have to reach down below though to engage the base lock. So it's kind of a compromise there between a full lift and a non-lift. The plunge, right? You can the Porter Cable. You can with their optional wrench, because it has a little spur here that you can put the tool through there. It'll engage that, and it will unlock it, and it will adjust it. So you can do both. It's got you have to drill a hole over here for the base lock, and you have to drill a hole for the adjuster. So you can do that. The router table that we use in the Wood Magazine photo studio down here normally we have this set up in there. So, and it works pretty well. So in the plunge router world, there's not many dedicated plunge routers left anymore. Most of them are being discontinued by their companies. The Triton is, like we talked about, they've got 3 different plunge routers. One is really too small for a router table, but their other 2, they have a 2-horse and a 3-horse model equivalent. They have so many watts, I don't remember what the number is, but it's equivalent to a 2 and a 3-horse. But you can put those on a plate and mount them in a router table, and they do have a lift wrench that comes with it, and you can put that in there. And it is a pretty good system for a router table to work in there for a plunge. You can bring the collet fully above the table to change bits, and it'll work fine. It's still not quite as good as a dedicated router lift, but it's pretty good. The problem with the Triton routers is that they're not really that great for handheld routing. They're kind of a clunky, awkward mechanism for doing that. They work really well once you get the height set, and that they have terrific power, and that it's just until you get used to one, it's kind of an awkward situation. So Triton, I think, just takes some getting used to. It's kind of like doing anything that's opposite of what you're normally used to. So it takes a little time, but they do make terrific router table routers.
You said plunge routers are being discontinued.
Yeah, most of the dedicated plunge routers are going away. I've got a Bosch 1619 here. That's their 3-horse motor. That's been discontinued about a year ago. They're no longer making these. You can probably still find them at retail, but they're going away. They're just not selling. I think the combo kits are really getting popular, and a lot of the small routers are really coming back into vogue, which this was something that was popular in a long time ago, and now they're coming back. They went away, they're coming back again. So the 1 1-horse, 1 1/4-horse routers are really coming back into vogue, and people are buying a lot of those. So the 3-horse routers just aren't selling as well, so companies are just doing away with them. DeWalt did away with theirs. They had 2. They had a 621 and a 625 router. Those are both discontinued. The combo kits are still around, and you can buy the plunge router. It's of that version. So, like if you were buying the Bosch, we want to buy a Bosch 2 1/4-horse plunge router. You're getting this motor in the plunge kit. You can buy just that in the plunge base, or you can buy you can buy either the fixed base or the plunge, or you can buy the combo kit. But it's the same router in that case. But a dedicated plunge router is just I think right now Triton might be the only one left on the market. No, I take it back. Makita has a little 1-horse router that's a dedicated plunger. The rest of them are just going away. The Freud, they had a really nice 3-horse router that they did away with. They're just not selling enough of them anymore. And I think that maybe the router lift, the evolution of router lifts has probably caused some of that, because it's helped to spur the development of, and the popularity of the combo kits and the motors that come out of the bases. So I think that's probably been the biggest part of it. I'll talk a little bit about this Bosch, but even though it's going away, but you can, like I said, you can probably still find them if you can get them used. I mean, they're great routers. The problem with plunge routers in most cases in a base is that you're always fighting that spring. You're fighting that when it's upside down and you're trying to set the bit height, that spring kind of works against you and makes it difficult. So in a lot of cases, what you have to do is open it up and take the springs out, and then you can get it without having to fight that. This Bosch, what it does, it has a spring bypass so that you can collapse it down, compress that spring, and lock it out, and then you can use it just a free-handing router or as a free drop router that way. So you don't have to fight the spring. But if you want to go back to using it, you get it out and you just undo it, and the spring is right there. So that's just it was one of the nice features about this. But again, that's for a limited time, I would say. But that was the only one that had that feature. And now that I say, I just thought of another. Hitachi still makes their plunge router. They have a big 3-horse plunge router that they still make. It's the KM12 or something like it. It's a big KM12 VC, maybe something like that. It's a big 3-horse. They do have it, but with that one, you have to take the spring out really to use it effectively in a router table. It just gets really difficult because it has a very stiff spring, and it's just really difficult to use in a router table situation.